Hello there. Today I have some very random tech facts I'd like to share with you. So yeah, let's get straight into it. Number 1, the Firefox logo isn't actually a fox. Well, sort of. At first it was a red panda, but later they did change it and they began to call it a fox, even though the actual picture didn't change out. Number 2, Alexa is always listening to your conversations. This probably isn't new to you because Siri's been doing it for years. Alexa stores your dialogue data on the cloud to help improve the Alexa experience, but you can always review and delete these if you have some strange things there. Number 3, GPS is free for some. Even though it's free to use GPS locally, it costs £2 million for the government. That comes out of taxpayers, so I don't have to pay for anything. Number 4, and this might just be my favourite, Google rents out goats. You heard me. Instead of mowing their lawn, Google rents out goats to eat the grass for them. That is actually pretty genius. They do this for their Mountain View headquarters. So basically, a herder will bring 200 goats, which are herded by a border collie named Jin. Number 5, the name robot has dark origins. If you look at the etymology of a robot, it comes to the Czech word robota, which means forced labor. This word was first introduced in a play in the 1920s about a fictional humanoid. Number 6, megabytes used to weigh hundreds of pounds, or more specifically, 5 megabytes weighed a ton. Wow, that's a ton! In 1956, the computer had something similar to a hard drive. At the time, this was a huge leap for technical capabilities, but the cabinet that contained the hard drive weighed 2,200 pounds. Wow, that's a... you know what? Never mind. Number 7, Steve Jobs had to use sleight of hand in the iPhone unveiling. The very first iPhone presentation happened 6 months before the iPhone was actually released to the public. At the time, the phone was too buggy to actually use, so Steve Jobs had to switch phones behind his desk. Otherwise, the phone would run out of RAM and crash. Number 8, the very first alarm clock could only ring at one time. Literally, one time. The very first mechanical clock could only ring at 4 AM. First of all, why would someone want to wake up at 4 AM? It wasn't until 1876 that the very first wind-up clock was created, where you can set it to any time. Number 9, the government used to use PlayStation 3s, but not for gaming. In 2010, the US Air Force used 1,760 PlayStation 3s to build a supercomputer for the Department of Defense. They used PlayStation 3s because it was cheaper and more green. Number 10, the very first online gaming happened before the 2000s. The Sega Dreamcast was the very first 128-bit console to release. Released in 1999, the console would allow you to play online against other people. Unfortunately, it was a bit too early for its time because the internet just wasn't advanced enough to handle it. Number 11, and I do not agree with this one, apparently you're in good hands if a gamer is your surgeon. Oddly enough, surgeons that grew up playing video games more than 3 hours per week make 37% fewer mistakes. Not only that, but apparently they're 42% faster. Why do I keep doing this in my hand? I'm not Italian. Number 12, Nintendo didn't start off as a video game company. Founded in 1889, before any video games obviously, they sold, from 1889 to 1956, they sold playing cards. Yeah, playing cards. Fun fact, they actually still sell playing cards in Japan. They even have a tournament called the Nintendo Cup. Number 11, Apollo 11 astronauts couldn't afford life insurance. This is because space travel at the time was way too risky and no one wanted to insure them because it would cost just too much. What they had to do, they had to sign different things so if something terrible did happen to them, their family could sell all those things. Number 14, you can spell your email in Morse code, if you ever want to. In 2004, the @ symbol became the first new character to come into Morse code in a decade. The character is called a commat and is consistent of A and C with no spaces in between. Number 15, Yahoo's first name was a mouthful. The original URL for Yahoo was akebono.stanford.edu. First name for Yahoo was selected because it derived from Gulliver's Travel slang Yahoo, which was originally a fictional race in a book. Bonus fact, Amazon also wasn't always called Amazon. Originally, it was called Cadabra.com. Cadabra was an online bookstore only. CEO Jeff Bezos don't know if you've heard of him, explored other options in the 1990s, some of which still redirects to Amazon.com today. For example, if you search up relentless.com, it shows up as Amazon. Number 16, the very first word ever to be autocorrected was te, T-E-H. Back then, autocorrect wasn't as sufficient as it is now. In order to autocorrect te to the, you had to press the left arrow and F3. So it's not very auto, is it? Number 17, the Nintendo Game Boy went to space. In 1993, a Soviet astronaut brought his Nintendo Game Boy on the TM-17 spaceflight. It has said to have orbited Earth 3,000 times and was later auctioned for $1,220. Number 18, PlayStation 1 had scratch and sniff discs. In 1999, Gran Turismo 2 had a scratch and sniff disc edition, where if you scratched it, it smelled like burnt tires and fuel. When FIFA 2001 came out, the scratch and sniff disc smelled like a football stadium. Number 19, there's a name for when you feel your phone vibrate but it doesn't. Yeah, an addiction. No, it's actually called phantom vibration syndrome, when someone thinks their phone is vibrating but it isn't. Scientists say it's because you're addicted. Number 20, a nice and wholesome one, blind people can actually use cell phones. Not like cell phones that just have an audio coming out, no. Cell phones with special braille technology and accessories for blind people to use. It uses special pins that go up and down to simulate different apps and different everything. And you can touch them to read info or, as I said, open apps. Number 21, Google's tweet was basically complete gibberish. It read, I'm, and then a bunch of zeros and ones, which in binary translates to English, I'm feeling lucky. Random, I know, but that's what they put. Last but definitely not least, number 22, iPhones were almost in the shape of an actual apple. Not very hand-friendly, is it? Neither are the iPhone 12s. The original design of an iPhone was going to be a literal apple. It was initially designed to be a flip phone with a keypad inside, but when closed, it looked like the Apple logo. We were this close to not having any touchscreen displays. But anyway, thank you for listening to my random-ass tech facts. I hope you learned something new, and if you did, please consider liking or subscribing. It would help out a lot, and yeah, bye!